Hey guys, George Madden here. Welcome to the introduction to Turo and the car rental business as a whole. Thank you for purchasing this course, and we promise to deliver tons of value here to get you started on your car sharing journey. So first off, why should you listen to me? Well, instead of just telling you, let me show you. So right now, I am the #1 host in my Turo market. I'll pull up my profile so you guys can take a look. So this is me. I was able to keep a 4.9 star rating out of over 1,936 trips. So I signed up for Turo here in November 2021, but before that I was renting on other platforms like HireCar, Getaround, and doing private rentals. So I've been in the business now for 5 years myself. So just to give you a little look at my profile, it's my bio about me, and here are some of my vehicles. So right now, like I said, I'm the largest Turo host in all of Pittsburgh with 50 vehicles at the time of this video and continuing to grow. I teamed up with a guy named Peter, who you're going to see later in this course, when I only had 15 vehicles, and together we were able to continually grow them by having locations in the downtown area of Pittsburgh as well as the airport. So one thing you'll learn in this course, we like to rent economy vehicles, and that's what we recommend you rent too, because those are going to be the top performing vehicles when it comes to your ROI, which is your return on investment. So just to give you a quick look, Mitsubishi Mirages, Nissan Rogues, Kia Fortes, Kia Souls, Jeep Patriots, and some newer vehicles as well, like this 2022 Ford Explorer, which I didn't start with the newer vehicles when I first began my Turo journey, but I was able to keep renting the economy cars, stack my cash up, and then invest into some longer term rentals. So that's just a quick background about me, and now I'm excited to get into the course and help you. So I want to give you guys in the first lesson an introduction to Turo and its business model, teach you exactly what you should do when doing a market analysis to know the potential for your area, and the benefits of using Turo over traditional rental car services. And something that is very, very important that a lot of people come to us at carrentalcoach.com when they sign up for our one-on-one coaching is insurance requirements. So everybody's scared of insurance. By the time you're done with this course, you will no longer need to fear insurance. If anything, you will be a master of it and make some money. So this course really is designed to equip you with the knowledge and tools necessary to leverage Turo as a profitable business model. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or a curious newcomer, you'll find valuable insights and practical strategies to succeed in the dynamic world of car sharing. So you're probably wondering, what is Turo? Well, Turo is an innovative peer-to-peer car sharing platform that allows individuals to rent out their personal vehicles to others. This connects car owners with renters. Turo provides an alternative to traditional car rental services, offering more flexibility and a wider range of vehicle options. We're going to explore how Turo operates, the fundamental principles behind its business model, and the opportunities it presents for entrepreneurs like me and you. So what's cool about Turo, it's very similar to Airbnb if you're familiar with that, where you're able to just list a vehicle and then Turo does the marketing, insurance, and a lot of the work to make sure that your car is rented, as well as providing you with a CRM to deal with your customers, whether there's messaging, making sure that your cars are marketed, and giving you all the tools you need to successfully run a car rental business. So let's get started. So when doing a market analysis for Turo, this is one of the main things that people mess up with at the beginning of their career. So people go out, they don't even look at their market, they purchase a lot of vehicles on a loan, and then they put them out there, and guess what happens? They don't rent. Well, that's why we made this course, to make sure that doesn't happen to you. So when you're looking at other vehicles on the platform, it's very important to first pay attention to the area you're in. So what I mean by the area you are in is you want to understand if you're an economy market or a luxury market, or sometimes you could be somewhere in between. The reason that I say that is because somebody coming into your area for business is going to be different than somebody renting the vehicle for a family vacation. That means you're going to have different vehicles because of the different clientele that you're going to see. After looking at the psychographics of your users and determining if you were in a more family-oriented oriented place, or say a city or a suburban place, or a place where you have more business clientele, such as the airport. You can then make the decision on what type of market you want to be in, and we recommend sticking with that market instead of trying to be a jack of all trades, so you can actually specialize in something. A lot of people start out and they decide, oh, I want to do a luxury car, then I'll get an economy car, and they do this complete mix up, which causes a lot of issues, because if they were just to focus on one thing, they would be able to succeed a lot faster when it comes into the Turo business. So I don't recommend being a jack of all trades. If you want to go with a certain type of vehicle and that's your brand, I highly recommend going full force into that type of car and then expanding from there. So basically, if you want to go into economy cars, stick with just economy cars until you can scale that out if they're doing well. If you want to go into luxury cars, then go into luxury cars full force. Then you're not going to have to worry about diversifying at the beginning, and you could always experiment and get fancy once you start getting trips and you build up a business. But as a newcomer, make sure you stick with that one type of vehicle type and then expand from there. Look at the vehicles within your area by going to Turo and seeing the people that are all-star hosts in your area and power hosts. These are going to be the people that have the most bookings on Turo because they're the most experienced, have received the highest ratings, and they've been in business the longest, meaning they're also the ones making the most money. And it makes sense to copy the people that are doing the best in your market. So if you look in your market and you see an all-star host has mostly economy vehicles, that's a great indicator that economy vehicles are the way to go. If you see you're in a market, say like Miami, and you see a lot of luxury vehicles, well, that's a good indicator that the luxury market is where you want to take over at and follow them. So always do what people above you are doing, and that's a good way to guarantee having success. When I first started and went in the Pittsburgh market, I did a market analysis. I looked around and I saw everybody was renting economy cars, and even people with newer cars than the ones that I'm renting, like 2023s, 2024s, and cars that sometimes have a price of around $50,000, are not renting for much more than cars you can source for $12,000. So when you're looking at the actual profits, the people with the cheaper cars are going to be making more money, and the people that bought the luxury cars, they might be still doing okay, but they're not doing as well. So very important that you understand your market, because one car is not going to work in every single different market. It's very geographic, so I can't stress that enough. When looking at the cars that are going to do well in your market, that is not an indicator that is going to do well in another market. So I'll show you in a second what I mean by that and how to do a brief market analysis. You're also going to want to make sure you pay attention to customer reviews on these profiles, because that's going to also give you an indicator of what type of business that host does, as well as vehicle availability and pricing. So if somebody's priced extremely low and they have a newer car, that doesn't mean follow that person or what they're doing as a business, because that might be somebody just struggling to make a car payment. Or if you see somebody with very bad reviews that's renting very cheap cars, well, they're not doing well on the platform either, because if they have those bad reviews, they're eventually going to either get kicked off of Turo, Turo's going to hide them in the algorithm, and overall, that's not a business that you're going to want to emulate. So again, very, very important to look at the availability of the vehicles, the reviews of the vehicles, how many trips they're going on, and that's how you're going to be able to determine the best cars in your area. So let me show you briefly what I mean by that. So we are going to go to Turo, and what you're going to do is you're going to switch to a guest. So you're going to go into guest mode as if you were looking for a car to book yourself. So we're going to switch to guest. And let's say we wanted to do the Pittsburgh area. And what we're going to do, very important here, make sure that you do a time at least 2 to 3 weeks in the future, and as long as it doesn't land on a major holiday or anything, because that's going to give you a good indicator of the market and what's going on. The reason I say not to do it during a holiday or something like that is because there's going to be more demand for the cars. It's not going to give you an accurate every single day market analysis of what that area truly does. And the reason I say 2 to 3 weeks in advance, and ahead of time, is because if you were to say do it for tomorrow, well, a lot of these cars might already be booked, and when the cars are booked on Turo, you're not able to see them, so it's not giving you a clear indicator of your market. So let's see, today is the 22nd, so we're going to go Let's go mid-August, no holidays here. And we're going to do it for a couple days too when we do this. And the reason we do it for a couple days is some Turo hosts don't allow you to book a trip for 1 day, so their search results aren't going to show up if we don't make it for a few day trips. So that's also a good rule of thumb. Make it for a few days and a few weeks in the future. So let's do the 13th through the 17th. And we're just going to search for cars. So you can see there's 181 cars available in Pittsburgh. So I would look at this, I would say, okay, Toyota Tacoma, 29 trips, 5 stars. They're renting it out at $50 a day. We continue. A Fiat, these actually do very well in Pittsburgh. I've seen a lot of them, and you can see they're an all-star host with 39 trips on this. And to know if they're an all-star host, you just look at this little badge here. And I didn't even filter for all-star hosts, but that's what I was saying when it comes to the Turo algorithm. Once you become an all-star host like I am, they're going to automatically promote your vehicles up higher in the algorithm. So that's why it's so important to keep good reviews, important to take the right pictures, have the right descriptions, and run this like a business instead of somebody just trying to make a car payment. And Turo is going to reward you and then push all those hosts that aren't taking it serious to pages in the back, and their cars aren't going to be booked. You're going to see those people in the Facebook group saying there's no money in Turo, or why is nobody booking my car? Well, it's because they didn't take the business seriously and run it properly. And I hate to say it, what we've discovered, a lot of people on the platform simply want to make their car payment. They want to buy like say a luxury car and then pay it off through Turo, and at the end of the day they don't even make any money, and they get sick of it because they didn't realize that this takes work. Well, every single business takes work, and that's just part of what it takes to be an entrepreneur. So if you're somebody that doesn't like to work hard, Turo's not for you. If you're somebody that wants to build a business with reliable income every single month that eventually you can outsource the work to, then this is a great model to follow. So we'll just look at a couple more. Hyundai Elantra, only 1 trip on that. Audi A4, I don't recommend Audi actually, even though this host is doing well with it, just because of the problems they have mechanically. So that's a bad first car to rent. If you already have one, then you can experiment with it, but I wouldn't suggest a new host getting into anything luxury. And Malibus, I have a few of these in my fleet as well that perform very well. So just to give you an idea, that's what you would do. You would go through, look at the reviews, look at how many trips they're on. Then from there, you can make your own opinion. So I'm going to show you something else too here. You can filter by price, vehicle type. You can sort by distance. Let's just go low to high, for example. So they're renting a 15 Escape for $37 a day, but nobody's rented it. So it's a good indicator to not follow what they're doing. Or it could be a new vehicle on the platform. When you see somebody that's an all-star host, something I like to do is to click on their profile. And then from there, you can click on their photo, which is going to show you the other cars they rent. So that's how you can find out if it's a big fish in the market. So like I said, I'm the biggest when it comes to the Pittsburgh market. Everybody else at the max maybe has 20, 25 cars. I'm over 50, but I still like to take a look to see what they're renting. So this guy's got a Honda Civic, and looks like the only car that he has currently available. Let's see what else we have here. And this is the all-star host section. So this is how you're going to find the people that are doing the best in your market. So you would turn this on. You can see those results drop quite significantly. Okay. So let's take a look at this guy. All right, Stewart. He's done 50 trips, so not too many, but a good person to take a look at to do some investigation. So again, Stewart only has 1 car. Let's try to find somebody with some more trips to give you an indicator besides myself. This person took some pretty cool photos on the bridge, so that's something you can do with it. I don't think it makes much of a difference as long as your photos are very clear and they're getting an accurate depiction of what you actually have to offer, but we'll go over that in later lessons. So 288 trips, it's not bad at all. He has a few here, so Hyundai Palisade, Hyundai Kona, So again, every market's different. Just wanted to give you a brief overview, but the main thing to take away from this lesson is look at the all-star hosts and see what they're doing. Look at what they're charging, look at their availability, look at their reviews, and that's going to be a good indicator of the type of cars to add to your fleet, and especially the areas, right? Because if you're renting in downtown Pittsburgh versus renting at the airport, you're going to probably want to have different cars in both of these locations. People that are renting at the airport might be coming in more for business and travel and leisure, versus downtown clients are going to be your locals who may have a broken car or just need a car to get around to grab groceries. And what's also nice about that, you'll have repeat renters, but usually they're happier with the cheaper economy cars, where an airport client might want something a little bit nicer, especially if they're in for vacation. Can make a difference. So that's what I mean by market analysis. So you want to study both traditional car rental companies and the peer-to-peer platforms. So you can also take a look at sites like HireCar if that's your market, or Getaround. It's going to be the same thing, where you're just going to look at the type of cars they have, the reviews, the vehicle availability, and that's what's going to get you the best indicator of what's going to work in your market. So there are so many benefits when it comes to using Turo. Obviously, the first thing you're going to want to do is earn extra income, right? Extra income is something everybody can use, especially in an economy like this. So another thing is insurance coverage, which everybody has an issue with. Turo makes insurance very easy. Turo also does all of the marketing for you, which if you've ever been in media buying like me, you can understand that can be a huge cost to actually acquire customers. And on top of that, they offer you support and resources like phone service. They'll pick up the vehicle if something happens with their tow, their roadside assistance, tow the cars, sometimes jump batteries for you. So to get more of it, there's just so many benefits to using Turo, and that's the number one reason people like to use Turo as a host, to earn this extra income. And a lot of our clients here at carrentalcoach.com have an extra car that's just sitting around. They're making a payment on it. They're not using it. It's collecting dust. Well, why not turn that liability into an asset? So by renting your vehicle out on the Turo platform, they give you all the tools that are needed to make it easy and as seamless as possible to begin your own Turo car rental sharing business. So what is so great about Turo? Well, like I said, it has the complete system needed to begin renting your cars. All you need is the vehicle and the knowledge on how to succeed in the business, and everything else is done for you. The space, for example, when it comes to car insurance, can be one of the trickiest parts when entering the business. I've done private rentals and rented through all three major car sharing platforms, but Turo makes it very simple by offering a variety of plans you can choose that allow you to ensure that your car is covered while on the platform and covers you in case anything bad happens to it. So let me give you an example of the insurance coverage that Turo has to offer. So switch back to host mode for you. So we go to the vehicles. So you can see I've had 67. I have 50 live right now, but that's just to give you an example. But let's just let's click on this to give you an example on what the insurance entails. So you would click on vehicle protection. And right now I have the 80 plan. I'm going to walk you through each one. Okay, so these different plans indicate what you're actually going to take home from Turo. So if you had the 60 plan, you're going to earn 60% of the income from your trips, and Turo is going to take 40%, which is pretty hefty. But they all each come with different benefits, and it depends on your risk tolerance. So you can see the deductible for the 60 plan is $0. That means if something happens to your vehicle, it's in any accident while rented on the platform, Turo is going to pay you the insurance claim out 100%. They're not going to take any deductible. And that is a benefit for some people that are more risk averse, but I don't personally recommend the 60 plan because I think that's giving Turo way too much money. They also offer you a replacement vehicle if something happens to your vehicle, and they'll pay you $50 a day while that car is in the shop, which can be pretty great. I've never used that plan, but I can see how that would be beneficial. And they'll also give you loss of hosting income. So if your car was supposed to rent for $30 a day and it was out for a month, they'll pay you that $30 a day while the car is down. And you can see they give you $750,000 of coverage. Next, we'll go to the 75 plan. You can see that comes with a $250 deductible. That means, say, your car is wrecked, there's $1,000 worth of damage. Turo is going to give you $750 because of that $250 deductible. And they'll give you a replacement vehicle, but dun dun dun, they take away the loss of hosting income. And the liability coverage right here, I'm not going to talk about that too much more. It's $750,000 for every single plan. So as long as your car is under $750,000, you're not going to have any issue. Then we have the 80 plan. It's a plan I'm currently using. It comes with a $750 deductible. You can see none of the other stuff's included, and that's going to happen as we keep going up. Then we have the 85 plan. So that more than doubles the deductible, and that's the reason I don't take it, because I do have a decent bit of accidents and actually profit off the insurance, and that's why I don't think that's the best plan. I think the 1625's a little bit steep. If I were doing more volume, say I was at like 60, I would even say 70 to 100 vehicles, I might go up a little bit, but right now when I've done the math, it does not make sense. And then you can go all the way up to the 90 plan, where you actually bring home 90% of the rental. So let's say your car rented out for $100 a day. That means you receive $90. But it comes with its cons too, of course, at a $2,500 deductible. So at a $2,500 deductible, any minor scratch, dent, ding is probably not going to be covered and not even worth turning into the insurance. But if you're somebody that can fix it yourself or you're comfortable with that, it could work. But with economy cars that are, say, valued around like $10,000, this is really a plan that just covers the car if it's like totaled, or I'm talking major issue where it's like maybe it should have been totaled. Like I said, Turo makes it very simple by offering this variety of plans that I showed you. And besides just the insurance, Turo markets your car. So what do I mean when I say they market it? Well, they actually promote your vehicle out to its entire user base, and also have a network of syndication services. So when I say syndication services, say you're on the internet and you see an ad pop up when you're just like on a Google page or reading a newsletter. Those are what syndication services do. So they'll actually promote your car all over the internet. And Turo as a whole has great market share because everybody knows what it is now. It's the #1 car sharing platform. So just by being on Turo, you're receiving the credibility that they have to offer. And since they do market your cars through the internet, this means you're going to get more bookings without having to take money out of your own pocket to pay for paid advertising. So I used to do media buying, and when you're running Facebook ads, Google ads, and all these other things, it adds up to some significant amount of money. And a lot of the people I know that do private rentals, they think, oh, well, I don't want to rent on Turo because Turo takes their fee and I can just do it all myself. Well, they don't do the numbers and they don't look at what it takes to actually market the vehicle. And when it's all said and done, Turo is a great alternative to doing private rentals. I still do some private rentals, but I'm very choosy with my clients I do that for. And usually they're long-term guests. I don't like to do a 2-day private rental because from my experience, you have to repo cars. It can be a headache. You don't have a system to actually monitor it. And the insurance can get trickier, especially in the private rental space, because a lot of the times if you turn this in, they're going to cancel your policy. So again, we do both, but you really have to make sure you understand the pros of what Turo is actually doing and not having to take this money out of your own pocket. So I also told you that Turo offers support and resources, and this helps tremendously because you are going to need roadside assistance at one point because of a vehicle just, down because of a flat tire, or say somebody steals your vehicle. Well, they're going to come in handy and actually repossess the car with you and work with you to do that. If you're doing that by yourself, you're going to have to make sure you have a tow guy, you have somebody that can go out and maintenance the cars, and there's going to be a lot of other issues. We'll get into trackers too, because if your car goes missing and you don't know where it's at, that's going to be a big headache for you. But by having this huge support network, the insurance they have, the marketing, Turo is by far the best car sharing platform, and I highly recommend it to our car rental coach clients more than any other platform that we've used. So, insurance requirements. Your car is only insured if you actually do things properly. So, what do I mean by follow a proper check-in? Well, you need to make sure you take the right photos of your car, and they have to be taken within 24 hours of the trip actually starting. So people ask like, well, what are the right pictures of my car? Well, you're going to want to make sure that you take pictures of the front, back, tires, and every single angle of the vehicle, the odometer, the interior, and anything that you can actually visibly see that you want covered. Anything that's not photographed is not covered. So that's why here at Car Rental Coach, we take insurance more serious than anyone. So that's why having this plan and doing the proper check-in procedures is so important. And people say, well, why take a picture of the odometer and the gas and every square inch of the car? Well, if you don't have the odometer taken, you're not going to be able to charge them for additional mileage. If you don't have the gas taken, the guest can come back and say it didn't have a full tank, and now you're out of pocket for that expense instead of being reimbursed through Turo, which is another benefit. So say you have a car where you have $100 of gas and the guest brings back the car empty and you didn't take a photo of the gas, well, now that's completely out of your pocket, which is a very big deal. The gas at the end of the day can end up being thousands of dollars at the end of the year. And some of these trips may only be, say, $100, $150. Well, if they take $100 in gas from you and you don't get that reimbursed, you basically made nothing on the trip. And like I said, make sure that you take the vehicle photos within 24 hours of your trip starting. If you were to take the photos 25 hours before your trip starts, the insurance will be void on Turo. So it wouldn't cover it, and you'd be screwed really. So make sure that you photograph your cars every single day, and that's just the best proper procedure to do. And you ask, well, how will Turo know if I don't take my vehicle photos 24 hours before? Well, they have something called metadata on the photos, and believe me, I've been through it with insurance. They can tell. So don't try to cheat it. Just follow the proper procedures and make sure you're doing good business. So another thing, between rentals, make sure you're checking your vehicle for maintenance, and we're going to get into that in the future, but you can have insurance voided because you're not taking your car up to proper standards. So another main thing to do. So what happens when your car is not on Turo? People ask this all the time. Well, there's something called off coverage insurance or off rental insurance. You might hear it referred as. So off rental insurance covers the vehicle when it's not being rented out on Turo or you're using it for qualified activities. So let me give you some examples. If I were to take my car and drive it myself and take it to go get gas to fill it up for the next guest, that would be covered by my off rental insurance. If I were to take the car to the car wash, that would be covered by off rental insurance. If I were to take the vehicle to go get an oil change, that would be covered by off rental car insurance if I were to be in an accident or anything like that while driving the car there. So anything that is related to actually maintaining the car or something that's required for the car to be rented on Turo is covered. What are some things that wouldn't be covered? Well, let's say you decide you want to take the family on vacation and you're driving one of your Turo cars with your off rental insurance coverage. It's not a good idea. That wouldn't be a covered activity. What if you wanted to just run down the street and go to the grocery store to go buy some groceries for the wife and kids? Well, again, not covered during your off rental coverage insurance. So make sure you're not using these cars in the wrong way to make sure you keep your insurance compliance, or it's going to end up costing you. So off rental insurance can range anywhere from around $60 to $100 per car. We'll get more into that with the different insurance plans, but really it's something you shouldn't avoid. I've had hosts come to me and they say, well, how would Turo know if I don't have off rental insurance? They might not find out at first, but you have to check your state's requirements, and we can't get into the legality of it, but always having off rental insurance is something that I've done from the beginning. I highly recommend, and it's going to catch up to you in one way or another if you take these shortcuts. Like I said, this is a business. We're not doing it just to make a few extra dollars. We're trying to run a company here, and by taking shortcuts on your insurance, you're going to end up getting caught or something bad's going to happen eventually. So I do not recommend taking shortcuts when it comes to this. And there's a few different insurers out there, so just check your state, search off rental car insurance, and you'll be able to figure out what the best one is from there. And they'll walk you through their proper process and procedures. Some of them may require you to get a tracker installed on your car, but again, they'll have a list of them, and it is a state-by-state thing, but simply searching off rental car insurance, Turo, or rideshare will give you your options within your state. And then if you want to get more into the insurance and actually have us help you pick the plan out and help you get the right tracker set up and automate all of this for you, you can go to carrentalcoach.com and book an appointment with us, and we'll actually work with you one-on-one to help you with this. But that's all for this lesson. I'll see you in the next one. All right, guys, welcome to lesson 2, getting started with your first Turo car. So this is a very exciting lesson because there's nothing more exciting than getting your first car live on the Turo platform and getting it rented. I know for myself personally, 4 years ago when I began my Turo journey, how much of a relief it was to see all of the work I put in, all of the months of preparation finally pan out when I saw the car get its first booking. And I was more excited than probably I am now, actually, with the Turo business. So I'm very excited for you guys to get to experience the same thing. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about choosing the right car for Turo, financing options, vehicle inspection and how to buy the car, and preparing the car for listing. So when it comes to choosing the right car for Turo, it comes down to the market analysis that we spoke about earlier, but not only a market analysis, it has to do with what is the best option for you personally. Everyone starts at a different point on their Turo journey and can't afford to buy a luxury car, or might not want to take the risk of buying something that is an older, cheaper vehicle until they, unless they really get a good deal and they don't feel like risking, say, purchasing at a car auction or something like that. So nobody's on the same exact point of their journey, and that's why we're here to help you. So when it comes to choosing the right car, it all really depends on where you are at on this Turo journey. We recommend for your first car to pick something that's higher in reliability and economy, usually from our experience with clients. That's what really serves them the best. But it all depends on your market and what your goals are. And also keep in mind it's how fast you'd like to scale and where you see yourself in the future and what you want to do with this business. There's also financing options. So again, financing is really going to depend again on your credit score, how much of a down payment you have, and how much risk you are willing to take. Then when it comes to vehicle inspections and buying cars, that's going to be more about making sure that you cover all the ins and outs of buying a vehicle properly to make sure that you don't have any issues. And then when preparing the car for listing, we'll go over the best ways to make sure the algorithm picks up your vehicle, make sure profiles stand out, and optimize it so you're one of the top shown hosts. Choosing the right car for Turo. So when choosing the right car for Turo, the market analysis is a very important part of making sure that we set this up for car rental success. But besides just the market analysis, where we talked about in the previous slides that determines the best type of vehicle for your market, you really have to decide what car is right for your goals and what you want to do with the Turo platform. Some people like to go on the Turo platform in the hopes of one day owning their dream car. They purchase a car that might be considered luxury, and then they rent it out to make the monthly payments until then one day they can own the car themselves. Other people decide they want to rent a car on Turo and turn it into a profitable business where they're trying to maximize the most profit as possible, which a lot of the times, myself personally, this is what I've done, is going the economy car route on Turo. So I recommend either way not becoming too attached to the vehicle, even though it is easier to become attached to it if it is your dream car and you're renting it out for the sole purpose of owning it one day. But after you do your market analysis and you figure out your personal goals and what you want from the Turo platform, then it's time to buy. So you always want to make sure you budget correctly. And what do I mean by budget correctly? Well, let's say you buy a $10,000 car and you had $10,000 in your savings. That's probably not the best decision because it's always good to keep a reserve of some cash for car repairs and maintenance. Small things need to be done with all vehicles, such as oil changes, tires, and sometimes depending on how you buy the vehicle, worse things can happen, such as engine problems, transmission, or all the other possible things that you can think of when it comes to a vehicle having issues. And I mean, come on guys, everybody's had a car, everybody knows that there's problems with them, and that's why I recommend to keep at least 20% of what the car is worth in the bank for these issues that will occur. So if you bought a $10,000 car, I would keep $2,000 in the bank account just for any maintenance and repairs, and that's how I like to budget for all of my cars to make sure that I'm not in a position where if something major goes wrong, then I'm out of business. So if you budget incorrectly, that could put you out of business before you even get to start. So budgeting correctly also means saving the money that you're earning so you're able to reinvest it into another car. So if you plan on scaling, make sure you save the funds you can make so you can either put them into a down payment or buy another vehicle in cash depending on your goals and how far you want to scale with your Turo business. I myself have been able to get to 50 cars, and that was a mix between cash, loans, credit cards, and other financing options we'll talk about shortly. But I took a mix of like a riskier approach, and also when I first started out I was less risky and did a lot of cash and reinvesting, and then once I was able to grow the business I was more comfortable after knowing it to take more loans. But I don't recommend beginners go heavy leverage. And also remember earning potential for these different vehicles. So luxury cars can rent out for a few $1,000s a month, where an economy car is usually going to get you around $800 to $1,200 a month, depending on your market and the vehicle. And remember that it's all in proportion to what the car is worth. So when you look at the profit of an economy car and what it can actually bring in, it profits more than a luxury car, even though the luxury car is doing more revenue. And you have to keep in mind with these luxury cars, depreciation is a big factor that people don't think about. And when you go to sell the vehicle, that's when you're going to realize what you've really earned on it. And that's when a lot of the people that I've known personally in the Turo space aren't too happy that went the luxury route. They bought a brand new car and then depreciation comes in to kick them later, and it turns out they did a lot of work for nothing. So just make sure you look at your car expenses, your maintenance expenses, your tracker expenses, employee expenses. Figure out how much you can actually earn, and then once you're at a positive, it's time to start to scale and look more into the business. So now to discuss the financing options and budgeting. So I myself have done a mix of pretty much every single one of these. From going to dealerships to doing credit cards to the cash on cash method to loans. So a lot of Turo hosts decide to purchase cars either through dealerships, auctions, and private people through Craigslist and Facebook. So when dealing with dealerships, new and used car dealerships usually offer in-house financing. When I say in-house financing, that means they actually have banks they partner with, and they can run your credit there, and they can provide you a loan right from the dealership without having to go outside and find your own financing. So some of these dealerships can offer very attractive rates with little money down. You can sometimes purchase the cars through your personal credit, and also if you have an LLC set up, you can actually purchase the vehicles under your LLC like I do. So these both have different pros and cons, and there's really not one size fits all for everyone, but you can usually take multiple car loans through dealerships and scale way faster than you would just trying to purchase the vehicles with cash. So, but remember, doing this can sometimes result in higher payments, and some of the other methods I'm going to be talking about can help you grow as well, but it's not going to be as fast as being able to take car loans. And granted, there are more risks when you are taking car loans because of that monthly payment up front, but I've done it myself, and if you know what you're doing, it is the fastest way to scale by far. So to get these attractive rates though for financing, it's all going to depend on what your credit score is and your down payment. So if you want to do it the dealership way and purchase through used and new dealerships and do in-house financing, you're really going to want to make sure that your credit score is good. And when I say good, I recommend at least having over a 650 if you're going to go this method. And you're going to want to make sure you have a down payment, because obviously the more you can put down on the car, the less your payment's going to be and the less risk you're going to have. So another method that I've done is the interest-free credit card method. So again, you're going to have good credit to do this. I myself was able to get $50,000 worth of credit cards. So if you do a Google search for zero interest or zero interest APR credit cards, you'll be able to find some that sometimes offer like 12 to 15 months of interest-free financing that you can use to then purchase from used car dealerships and new car dealerships. Most of them do take credit cards, so just check ahead of time. But that was one way I was able to purchase 5 more cars, so each one was around $10,000, put them on the credit cards, and then when the payment was due, 15 months from the date that I purchased them, the cars were already paid off because of the earnings I made from Turo, and I saved that money, so I had that to pay off the credit cards. So it is a little bit of a riskier method, and you're going to have to make sure you really know the Turo business before you do that. But I was able to do that successfully, and I know many other hosts that were able to do the same thing. So that's one way to use other people's money to make money, because at the end of the day, if you know how to use leverage right, that's always going to be the fastest vehicle to achieving success in any business. But it does come with more risk. That's why I recommend you study, you make sure you pick the right cars, you take courses, and you learn from people like us at carrentalcoach.com. to make sure that you know what you're doing before you jump in and start borrowing money. So obviously the safest way is always going to be using your own money to start this business. Then lastly, well not lastly, one more method, there's the cash on cash method. So when I say cash on cash, I mean taking the profits from the car that you're renting on the platform, saving them up until you're able to buy another car. So this is usually for people doing the economy car method. Now, this method may be the safest when it comes to risk, but it's also the most time consuming. So if you're not using the leverage or any debt, like the other ways I mentioned to source vehicles, it's going to take you a lot longer to build a fleet, but you'll be in the safest position. So really it all depends on what you want to do. So like just to give you an example, say I were to buy a $10,000 car. So this example, I saved $10,000 up and rented out a car. And a car around $10,000 will bring you in, say, like $800 to $1,200. So let's say you brought in $11,000, $12,000 for the year. You finally have enough money to then buy another car like that. Well, it took you a year to actually save up to buy your second car. If you have more cars, like you had 5, then you can do this a lot faster and scale. But when you're starting out with just 1 or 2 cars, it's very difficult to scale a business just because at that point, you really have to wait. It's a time game. But if you're able to use leverage, you could have bypassed all of that and then scaled to what it took you a year in a day. So they come with their pros and cons. I'm not recommending one way to everybody. Everybody has different risk tolerance. Everybody's at different places with their credit. Everybody has different business skills and knowledge. But for those that have good credit and know the business, leverage is always going to be the best thing you can do to grow this fastly. Then last method we have is applying for a business loan. And what's great about business loans, you can usually get them at a lower interest rate than dealer financing or some of the other options I mentioned. So I myself was able to apply for an SBA loan and gain another $100,000 in vehicles with a very low payment of this of only $900 a month. So I was able to actually buy $100,000 worth of cars with an SBA loan and then only pay $1,000 a month to have that inventory. So to get an SBA loan, you're gonna have to have a business already or some type of history to get that type of financing. But that's why it's so important when you're first starting your Turo business to make sure it's set up correctly, because then you're gonna be able to take out these type of loans in the future after running things, showing a profit, and that's how you can really scale. And that's the key to success when it comes to using leverage properly. You want to make sure you're not over leveraged. You want to make sure you know the business correctly. You want to look at your financing options, and you have to know what your goals are. If you want to grow to 50 cars, very hard to do that with the cash method. If you want 1 or 2 cars and you just want to make a little bit of a side income, then saving up with cash might be right for you. But again, it's all different for everybody. Can't recommend a specific way. But if you want us to help you custom tailor a plan, we can help you at carrentalcoach.com if you book a call with us. All right, so the vehicle inspection and buying process. So one of the most important parts of the car business is when you purchase the cars. Just like real estate, you make your money when you buy a property, you make your money when you buy a car. So when purchasing a car, there's some very important things to look over, and we're going to go over the basics to make sure that when you're purchasing a vehicle, you do it successfully. So when you purchase a vehicle, always go in person. Don't do this online. It doesn't make sense, especially if you're not experienced with bidding on cars or anything like that. You're always going to want to go see it, get your own eyeballs on it, and take it for a test drive. So first thing you're going to do, check the exterior for any cracks, dents, or other signs of the vehicle being in an accident. Make sure to check the interior for any smells or upholstery stains. A major thing to look out for when looking at the interior of the car is check it for the smell of mold when purchasing the car, because that means there could have been some serious water damage or the car was wet in a flood, which means there's going to be some other possible issues that arise when it comes to the mechanics of the car. So just to give you guys a quick story here, I've worked at used car dealerships for even longer than I've been a Turo host. So I started working at them since I was 16. I'm 30 now. And you would not believe the things people try to get away with when trading in cars. People would actually ship cars from from states that the car was flooded and then try to do trade-ins and stuff and try to bypass that. And they'll do anything from spray Febreze in them or change the upholstery. But make sure if you smell anything that has even the closest resemblance of mold, run. Do not purchase that car, because there is a serious chance there is something majorly wrong with this vehicle. Another thing you're going to want to do, which I do for every single car I purchase, make sure to check the Carfax. So Carfax is going to allow you to look up any accident reports on the vehicle and ask the dealerships you're purchasing the vehicle through for a warranty. So when looking at Carfax, you can see just how many owners the car has had. You're going to be able to see any damage reports, if it's a clean title, and everything that you can possibly imagine. It's going to show you the market value of the car. So if you go to a dealer and they don't want to provide the Carfax to you, that's an indicator that there's something wrong with it, and I wouldn't go with them. Any good dealership is going to give you the Carfax report, so that is going to be like your major guide when to purchasing a vehicle. Another thing we recommend, especially on your first car and you're new into the car buying, you're going to want to purchase a warranty on the car, and you're going to want to do research on the warranty. So warranties are not all equal. So we recommend at least getting a powertrain warranty, and a powertrain warranty covers major issues of the vehicle, right? So major issues are going to be transmission, engine, things like that. So if something like that goes wrong early in your car rental business, you might be completely out of luck, because that can be thousands of dollars to fix when you could have paid maybe a couple $100s for a warranty. So make sure you get one of those when starting your Turo business, especially for the first time. And like I said before, make sure you go see this car in person. Don't be lazy. Don't just buy it on the phone. A lot of people purchase cars without seeing them, which cause so many issues, especially once you go to test drive it after the fact. And you find something wrong, because a lot of these places are as is. They're not going to let you return it, and you could have prevented this by going for a simple test drive. So when you do a test drive, since you're going to go see the car in person because you're not lazy, you are going to listen for any slight noises, mishandling. Make sure the car is like aligned right, because if there's even something small with the car wrong, for example, like the alignment's off, you notice it's pulling a little bit to the right or the left, those are all indications that the dealership's not taking care of the vehicle, or the private owner's not taking care of the vehicle. And if they're not getting the car aligned, or say it's like not a new oil change, small things like that, that's going to be indicators that there's other major issues that could be wrong with the vehicle, because if they're not able to fix the small things, they might have major issues they're hiding as well. And when it comes to negotiation, well, there's a few different factors involved. If you're going to negotiate with a used car dealer or an individual, it's going to be a little bit different. But when negotiating with a new car dealership, the rule of thumb is just to do your research beforehand. Come prepared, know the market value of the car, and then from there, offer what you believe is fair. But we always recommend going under what they're asking, but we don't like to gouge them too much, usually 10 to 20% under asking, just to try to gauge where they're at and how they respond. So negotiation's really about trial and error, and no people will respond the same. So if it's a very fair, good deal, you might want to just take what they're asking for and go with it. The major key to negotiation really is to make sure that you've done your research, and don't be afraid to take a look at multiple cars. So I usually still do bid on a vehicle a little bit lower than what they're asking, but if I find a really good deal, I know it's going to go off the market soon, and if I do my numbers and I realize, wow, this is a car that could bring me in, say 50 to 100% ROI, well, I'm just going to buy it. Especially at my level, I buy so many cars that it wouldn't make sense to nickel and dime somebody and hold up a deal when I could have it on the road rented. But really do your research, know what the car is worth, know what you can pay for it, and then come in and have some fun. Like I said, nobody's going to respond the same. Really, it just comes down to knowing your numbers, doing research, and then look at multiple offers. The first car you look at is probably not going to be the first car you buy. So don't get discouraged if the first deal falls through. It's very common. When I first started, I would look at like 10, sometimes 15 cars, go meet them, drive around. And it's just part of the business. So, you're not going to get every single one that you want. And that's okay, because your first car especially, you're going to want to make sure you get a very good deal to set yourself up for a solid foundation in the future. Now, let's talk about after you purchase this car. So we want to prepare the car to be listed, okay? So that's going to come down to proper photos, optimizing the description, and having the correct settings on the vehicle. So when you make sure that you're preparing to get your car listed, you want to take the proper photos. And when I say proper photos, make sure you're taking the photos on a bright sunny day that shows the car in good weather, and make sure you're using a good camera. An iPhone is good enough to take the photos. You could use like a professional photographer. I've used an iPhone for all of mine, and that's been plenty good enough, and I've still been able to become the #1 host with using an iPhone. So I don't think getting professional photos makes sense, especially not at first. But if you have just a good smartphone, that's going to be fine, and it's going to suffice and be still better than most of your market. You'll laugh when you look at your competition and see the pictures they take. So if you can at least use an iPhone, you're going to be like light years ahead of the competition. Because for some reason, a lot of Turo hosts, I don't know if they just don't check their photos or what they're doing, but either way, they're putting out a very subpar product, and it's just it's terrible. It's funny, but that's just what business is. So you're going to want to stand at least like 6 to 10 feet back when you take the photos of the vehicle, because when you upload them to Turo, it's going to like zoom in on them, and you want to make sure you take the photos of the front, the rear, the sides, and angles of the cars, as well as detailed photos of the interior, the trunk, the tires, and every other feature the car has. The more photos, the better when it comes to it. And when it comes to the description of it, you're going to want to make sure it's optimized for Turo. So what do I mean when I say optimized for Turo? You're going to want to hit the requirements for the length they're asking for. So you want a long, detailed description of the vehicle, showcasing everything about the car, from its features to the year, make, and model, and any other information you can think of with a description that the customer would find helpful. And this is going to help boost your car to the top of the algorithm. So make sure they are detailed, and you give your car the justice it deserves by giving a quality, long description. Do not try to skip that part or rush it. Don't just put, hey, rent my car, or nice red car. You want to make sure that you put some time into this. Take a look at what your competition's doing, especially the all-star host like I mentioned before. And sometimes it's not a bad idea to take their listing and use that as a template, and then fill in the information for your car properly. So go to their Turo profile and take a look at it yourself, so you have an idea of what your listing should look like. So I'll give you an example of one of my listings so you have an idea of what a car's photos should look like. Okay, you can see here, so I keep all of my photos symmetrical, and I use the same sort of front-facing photo on every single car from an angle. And I do one from the front, sides, other side, back, interior, dash, more dash, back seats, trunk space, and all of that seems simple, but you would be surprised by how many Turo hosts neglect this part. So having these quality photos is going to make a big difference when it comes to your listing standing out. I mean, some people looks like they took the photo at night, or they have like 2 photos of their car, and when somebody's renting it, they don't want to see that. So also, just to give you an example of my description, so you can see, welcome to our Turo listing for the reliable and comfortable 2013 Chevy Equinox. This impact SUV or compact SUV is the ideal partner for both your daily errands and your adventurous road trips. So I have features of the car here where I go into depth about the technology in it. I give some information about the safety, which you can find like if you look up the car's description from the dealer or anything like that, and look at some of your competition, you'll find some of this information. Then I make sure to fill out all of my features here. So it's all-wheel drive, has a backup camera, automatic transmission, and all of that's going to be extremely important in making your vehicle stand out from the competition. So have good photos and have a good description, and that's going to make you like in the top 5% of Turo hosts. And I'm not even kidding. I know it seems so simple, but nobody does it. And that is all for lesson 2. So look forward to talking to you guys in lesson 3. Welcome to lesson 3, where we're going to finally talk about setting up your Turo business. So we did the work, we finally got the car. Now we're going to look into actually getting your car live and creating your Turo account. We're going to look at rental prices, understand fees, and do a brief recap of insurance options. So when signing up for Turo, you're going to want to make sure you first download the Turo app. And when you do this, you want to make sure that you've created an email that you're going to use just for your Turo business. And from there, simply follow the instructions to create the account. They may or may not require you to verify your license as a host at the time of this recording, so make sure you do have your ID ready. And the next step you're going to take is go through to list your car. So make sure you have your car photos. We're going to set pricing, use the description that we spoke about before, and we will create a bio on the platform. But before you're ready to list your vehicle, you're going to have to schedule an orientation. This orientation should only take about an hour. where you're going to speak with a Turo representative. They're going to give you a quick lesson on how the platform works, and then you'll be able to list your vehicle. From there, you're also going to want to create a Turo profile, and we're going to want to make sure we fully optimize that. And what I mean by that is you're going to want to write a nice about me with a professional looking photo of your face, so a headshot is usually the best, that guests are now going to see when they see your profile come up. And we're going to want to showcase your personality through this. So whether you're a small business owner or a family man, it's important to make that emotional connection with the guest. So let me give you an example. Here's an example of my profile. So you can see I have a nice clean looking headshot that I had professionally taken, dressed professionally, so that really showcases who I am as an entrepreneur and businessman. And then let me go through my bio so you have an idea of what you can use for yours. So you can see right here, I show what my name is. I'm the owner of a small family car rental business. We're thrilled to offer you a remarkable car rental experience through Turo. We have a wide range of vehicles and a commitment to exceptional service. Then from here, I go into a little bit of a background about me. So everybody's going to be different. Everybody has different strengths that they can showcase. But for me, I showed that I graduated from Penn State for finance. I started my own car rental business in the Pittsburgh area. And from my reviews and everything else, you can see I'm a very trusted and reputable host within the area who prioritizes customer satisfaction and strives to exceed expectations. So right here, after that, we talk about our vehicle selection. So this lets you know that I offer a variety of cars, which I do, from compact vehicles to trucks. We keep them meticulously clean. We regularly service them. Then I highlight the convenience and flexibility. So really, if you're a new host, don't let this overwhelm you. If you only have one vehicle, still showcase that. Say, you're just starting out, you're a small business owner. Even, this may sound goofy, but talk about some of your hobbies, family, what your goals are for Turo. People like to have that emotional connection, and this is all going to make your profile stand out from other hosts, because believe me, just having a long bio such as this will put you in the top 5% of hosts out there, because a lot of them don't even fill it out. And this is similar to Airbnb. When somebody books a vehicle through you, they want to build some sort of connection. They want to be able to trust you, and most importantly, want to see that you're another human being on the other side of the Turo platform. A lot of people, especially renting through Turo for the first time, they feel a little bit nervous. They don't know who's on the other end of Turo. It's a new platform. It's emerging technology. The older generation, they're used to just Hertz and traditional car rentals. So this puts their mind at ease by having that professional photo and a good looking description of yourself. And I can't stress enough, make sure you do use a professional looking photo of yourself like I have. It doesn't have to be a professional headshot, but it should be a clear photo. You don't want it to be blurry, and you want to be dressed nice, have a smile, look trusting. Don't put a picture of your dog or a blurry photo of you and your friends on there. It's not going to convert as well. I get this question too. Well, what if I have an LLC? Should I use my business logo for it? I still suggest using your actual face. People tend to convert higher with Turo when it's an actual human face they're looking at instead of just a logo for a business. So I always recommend using the face over the business logo, because it does build that emotional connection. And let me show you just where you would go to sign up for Turo. So you go to Turo.com, and you would click here, sign up, become a host. From there, you would click get started. From there, you put in the email or a phone number. You can also sign up with email, Google, Facebook. Fill out the information, first, last name, email, password. Then from there, you'll be prompted to put in your car's VIN number, like I spoke about before, your vehicle identification number. Remember, there's no two cars with the same VIN number. That's like your car's social security number. And then you'll be prompted to do the onboarding like I spoke of. So very straightforward process. Onboarding, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get an appointment, but no more than 24 to 48 hours. So shouldn't take too long. So even if you don't have the photos of your car, but you know the car you're purchasing and have the VIN number, you can actually do all of this so it's ready to go. So you don't have to get your car, have all the photos ready, and then have to wait an additional 24 hours to do the onboarding. So what's nice about the onboarding, you only have to do it one time and then you're done for life. When it comes to the description basics of your Turo vehicle, you're going to want to make sure you have the year and make of the vehicle, as well as any features that you find important to look at. I always like to look at competitors in the market that are doing well. Take a look at their descriptions for things you like and don't like about them, and then craft your own Turo profile and create your own description. So this is where you can have a little bit of fun. It's good to be unique and stand out, but still you want to follow basic principles of business. You don't want to read the description and put things in there like don't drive my car fast or don't smoke in my vehicle. that's already assumed. You don't have to put that in there, and I see a lot of Turo hosts doing it, but that's going to discourage somebody from wanting to rent through you, because if you're putting stuff in there for their first interaction with you, like don't speed in my vehicle, don't smoke in my vehicle, it's going to make them think, well, this is like a very strict host, or it just doesn't showcase your personality the best. You're still going to get reimbursed for that, and putting that in there is not going to hinder them from smoking or doing anything in your vehicle anyway. So all you're going to do is keep yourself from getting bookings. So you can use the description like I showcased earlier in our previous slides, but really just make sure that you fill up the length. It's going to help with the algorithm, boost your profile up further, because they're going to see that you have a professional description, and Turo is going to count you as a more serious host because of that. The Turo algorithm is one that works with you over time, so the more reviews you get, the better description you have, the higher quality photos you're using, and the more availability you have for your vehicle are all going to be things that Turo puts into the equation to put you at the top of the search results. And that's how you're going to beat the competition, by doing good business, time in the game of Turo, and continuing to do good work. And you will be surprised by how many people lack proper photos, proper descriptions, and have bad profile photos of themselves and about me's. And after you take this course, you're going to be in the top 1% of Turo hosts when it comes to doing all these things. When it comes to automatic pricing and custom pricing for Turo, so there's two types of pricing. One's automatic pricing, where what you're able to do is put a minimum and a maximum price in to let Turo do the rest. So for example, if you wanted to put a vehicle in at $30 minimum and $50 maximum, Turo is going to use the algorithm, and then based on supply and demand, they're going to price your car accordingly. So if there's a lot of demand in your area, your car is most likely going to be priced at the $50 range towards the top. But if things are slow, Turo is going to go down to the $30 range. So I do recommend using automatic pricing because of this. It's a lot less hands-on, but when it comes to custom pricing, you're able to go in there and override this. So if you wanted to pull your calendar up and then put in a price to override Turo, the custom pricing is going to be more advanced for more advanced hosts. That's something we can help you with at carrentalcoach.com, but that would override the automatic pricing, and now your price is going to stick at that. So one technique I like to do is use the automatic pricing, so put the minimum and the maximum price in. But then if cars aren't booking, sometimes I'll put it like $1 less than what automatic's suggesting, or play around with it every day. But pricing is an everyday challenge. You're not going to just sit back, relax, put it on automatic pricing, expect your Turo profile to get the most bookings. So really take a look at your car in the market every single day, see what other hosts are charging, experiment with it, lower the price, see if you can get on to the first page of Turo search results, because that's a big indicator if you're priced right. And then from there, you're able to see how well you actually price the vehicle. And then when it comes to Turo fees, like we spoke about before, there's the different pricing plans based on your insurance, where you have a 60 split, where Turo's taking 40%, all the way up to 90, where you're earning 90% of the income and Turo's taking 10%. So really it all comes down to your risk tolerance. You have to do the math yourself to figure out which plan's going to be right for you. Like I said, I do the 80 plan, but every host is going to find something different. And it really depends on what you're looking to do, how much you're looking to earn, and how much risk you're willing to take. And we covered the different insurance options and the different plans. So really the cons of the plans where they take more is obviously Turo is going to take a larger chunk of the pie, but that's going to give you a lower deductible. That's going to give you coverage in case something happens to your vehicle. And really, like I said, if you want to have us come in and actually help you with this pricing and with the insurance and figure out the exact plan that really optimizes your profile and puts you at the top of the results, you can go to carrentalcoach.com and book a call with us.
Hello everybody, my name's Peter. For those of you that don't know me, I'm George's business partner. I got started in the business about 3 years ago. I went out and financed 5 vehicles. Make a long story short, George and I became friends. We decided to merge our fleets, and now we have one of the biggest fleets in Pittsburgh. But what I'm excited to tell you guys about is how specifically that we can market the vehicle that you have or the vehicle that you're going to get for Turo. And to kind of give you an overview of what's going to be in this lesson, the first thing that we're going to talk about is basically optimizing your Turo listing. So we're going to make it so that your car can rent. Next thing for a general marketing perspective is building an online presence. So talking about social media, websites, some different things like that. We'll throw in some marketing strategies specifically for private rentals. I know for a lot of people that's your main goal that you want to get into is private rentals. So we're going to be working into that. And the last thing is customer service best practices. If you don't have good customer service, then you can't have a business. I'm going to do a little bit more of a deep dive into that. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about here specifically is optimizing your listing. Now, in regards to optimizing your listing, the way that I want you to think about it is, let's say that you're going to a job interview. You're all excited, you want to get this job. When you go to that interview, you want to make sure that you put your best foot forward. You wake up in the morning, you're putting on a nice suit, you're making sure your hair's done, teeth are brushed, you look good to go into this interview. Let me tell you what you're not going to do. You're not going to wake up, roll out of bed, not do your hair, go to the interview wearing pajamas and slippers. Why would you not do that? You're not going to do it because then there's no way you're going to get the job. You walk in with pajamas, the first thing they're going to say is, get this guy out of here. He's not serious about the job. I bring up that example because that's the same way that it works with your listing. If you don't dress up your listing in a suit, make sure that it looks nice with, quote unquote, with the analogy, the hair being done, the teeth brushed and the whole thing, then your car will not rent. Now, first thing I want to talk about in regards to dressing up your listing is pictures. So you see that I showed you guys these two pictures here of the BMW. They're pretty close to being the same car. The point of these two pictures though is that they have different backgrounds, different camera angles. When we take pictures, we want it to be as uniform as possible. Now, I'm going to show you specifically as well on our own Turo profile. So a prime example is we have this Ford Explorer that's listed. Now, when you go and look at the pictures, they're very uniform, right? The background, you can see that it's a car lot. You can see very clearly what the car looks like. So another thing when you're taking pictures is I typically recommend that you're standing anywhere from like 10 to 12 feet back from the car, because when you actually take pictures of the vehicle, Turo has this weird zoom in function where it does a super zoom. So if you're not standing far back when you upload them, it makes the pictures look weird. But in taking a look at these, you can see how the pictures are uniform. You can see there's a car lot in the back. Another thing to note with pictures, so we do the pictures of the exterior. So you can see here, there's the side angle. We do a front angle, another side, both sides of the car, also the back of the car so people can see what that looks like. We always recommend doing pictures of the interior that look specifically like this. So you standing outside of the car, taking a picture of what the front driver's side. Same thing for the going into the back of the car where the passengers are going to be sitting. Again, the back seat pictures to show. We also like to show what the infotainment system looks like. Again, another thing that people like to look at if they're going to be driving the car, want to see exactly what they're getting. We take another front picture of the steering wheel function itself because this is what the driver is going to be seeing. So it makes sense to add on this picture specifically. Again, a couple more of the infotainment so they can see the whole thing. We also recommend to take a picture of the trunk, specifically for people that are traveling maybe with their family or with a couple different people. They do want to see what the trunk looks like, so we recommend that you add that in. And yeah, that kind of gives you an idea for what the picture should be looking like. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is competitive pricing. Now, I'm going to give you guys a real life example here of what it looks like, not just when your pricing is competitive, but a little bit all encompassing when your listing is competitive. So for a prime example, let's go to Turo here. I'm going to show you guys if we go right here in Pittsburgh, right? We'll have those dates set for here towards the end of the month. So boom, okay, here's all the listings that are in Pittsburgh. The very first car that shows up is a vehicle that's in our fleet. Now, a big part of that is the fact that the pricing is competitive, and I want to talk about that a little bit. When we are specifically setting the price for our car, and this is a good thing for you to know when you're doing market research to expand on that, we look at the other cars that are in the area that are comparable to our vehicle. So this is ours, 2019 EcoSport. You can see some of the other cars here. Okay, there's a Forester, that's a 2017, that's relatively comparable, $61 a day. Jeep Cherokee, $70 a day. Hyundai Kona, $70 a day. I'd say that's relatively comparable. Toyota Camry, $64, it's a 2021. Toyota Camry, 2015. Again, this also shows you it doesn't make a huge difference for the year of the car for how much that it's going to rent for. But yeah, to kind of give you an idea for pricing, what I do specifically and what our manager does is that if we see that our cars aren't renting a lot, right? So if it drops below that 25-day average, I have one window pulled up that's this specifically to show the area, and then I have another window that's pulled up that has my pricing on it. I will tweak the pricing on a $1 to $5 basis until I see my car show up on this very first page in the algorithm. Now, when you're starting out, since you don't have a seasoned account, as in you don't have a lot of trips, it'll be a little bit harder to be the first car that shows up, but you can definitely get on the first page by doing this. So again, an example here is if I had my car listed at $70 a day, it would probably be the third or fourth here with the other cars that are at $70 a day. But because I made it $54, it was a little bit less for a nicer car. That made it where this car showing up on very first here on the algorithm. And here to kind of go over the same thing with the pictures, you can see that we follow the similar format for all of our vehicles. See the infotainment, trunk pictures are in there, front, back, side. We really follow that same layout with all of them to ensure success, to say the least. So now, the next thing I want to go over here is when it comes to friendly communication. This is going to be one of the most critical things for your business, specifically with Turo. And to give you guys an example, I had a guest specifically that reached out to me asking a very simple question, basically like, oh, hey, I don't know how to open the trunk. I responded to that immediately. Person was like, oh, thank you so much. I had a lot of luggage. I just didn't know where the button was. Now, on the contrary, I'm telling you this from my own mistakes, or even people that we've worked with have dealt with similar circumstances where, let's say I didn't answer that. That person now had to take time out of their day. They had to pull up their phone, go on YouTube, figure out how to open the trunk. Now they're agitated. And think about this just in human psychology. They're not going to say, oh, well, at least I figured it out. They're thinking, well, I'm renting this guy's car. The very least he could have did was told me how to open up the trunk. And they remember that when it comes to leaving a review. And if they leave you a 1-star review on your account, now your car is less likely to rent. So the big thing here is to respond as quickly as possible. That's on the prompt side. When it comes on the friendly side, when I respond to that message, it's always something like, oh, hey, not a problem. Thanks for reaching out. Here's exactly how to open up the trunk. It's never like, oh, wow, you don't know how to open up the trunk? Or you should look that up yourself. You never want to give responses like that. Even if it is the knee-jerk reaction, you want to make sure that you're always keeping it professional. And typically I wouldn't add this part in, but it is pretty important. We've seen with people that we work with where it's something that does need to be said so we don't run into these mistakes. So now let's talk specifically about building an online presence. Now, I'm going to give you guys basically a little example of somebody that we've worked with here in the past. This is a husband-wife couple. They have a fleet upwards of 20 cars. They do pretty well. Now, I have a little bit of a different perspective on this, but everybody is different depending on what kind of business that you want to build specifically. In talking about social media engagement, now, us personally, we don't have a social media account for our cars because we primarily rent out the cars through the car sharing platforms. Now, on the contrary, if your goal is that, hey, I want to get into private rentals, that's really what I want to do, then I recommend that you make yourself a social media page. And on this page, you really want to focus on what is the customer experience, right? So when I say what's the customer experience, I'll give you a prime example here. So the people I was telling you that have the 20 cars, this is their page in general, right? When I'm saying what does the customer experience look like, so here they post a lot of their reviews, or they post specifically they got a Cybertruck. Oh, what does it look like for the person that rented out our Cybertruck? Or, oh, we took our team out to get lunch. You're basically showing what is the experience of working with your company, and more importantly, since you control it, the positive experience of working with your company. So that's kind of an example in regards to that. Now, the most important thing for Turo is when we're talking about customer reviews. Now, again, I'll just show you guys instead of showing you the PowerPoint here. If you go to our page in general, you can see that it's like, okay, we're an all-star host, been on for a couple years. You can see here specifically rating-wise that all of our cars, 4.9, 4.9, 4.9, 4.8, 5.0, our cars have good reviews. And the reason for these good reviews is that we're very serious about how we treat our guests and the experience that we're getting. Now, again, to show you exactly what the reviews look like, this guy said easy pickup and drop off. Another one, easy pickup and drop off, saying that we're flexible. Basically saying last minute rental after a host canceled. We always provide a good experience. And let me tell you something that guests are looking for. They only look for a few things when they're renting a car. They're looking at the pricing, what the car looks like, and what are the reviews. If they come here and they see a review that said, oh, well, George didn't get back to me for 3 days, or, oh, it says here, Peter didn't respond when I asked specifically about a question, or, oh, they didn't tell me how to get into this car, how to get into the lockbox and everything specifically. If other guests see that before they're renting the car, they're like, I don't want to deal with those people. I mean, they can't even respond, or they can't even get back to you quickly. Where on the contrary, that person, they're visiting Pittsburgh, they open up their phone, they're looking for a car to rent. They look at this, they're like, oh, it's an EcoSport, it looks pretty good, has some trips on it. The host has 1,900 trips, typically responds within a minute. Wow, they're pretty fast. And look at that rating. They have a full 5 stars. And it looks like all these people have had a pretty good experience. And, oh, wow, I can pick the car up for free. That's pretty good. It's $89 a day. That's what they see, and that's where they're like, wow, this is a car that I actually want to rent. This is a car that looks like a good experience. That's what you want to provide with your listings. Now, next thing to talk about is collaborations and partnerships. Going to be a bit of a golden nugget for everybody that's watching this that, again, wants to really make sure that their cars are rented, even to get the cars to be rented outside of Turo. When I say collaborations, I'm talking about specifically working with local businesses that would work with people that need to rent out cars. Now, what's an example of one of these businesses? One would be a franchise hotel, right? Somebody's staying at a hotel, maybe they Ubered there and they want to be able to rent out a car. You could partner with that hotel and say, hey, look, we'll give a discount to all of the people that rent out cars through you. That will make it now, if you're getting people that are renting the car there and renting the car on Turo, now there's more likely where your car is actually going to be rented. Or, on the contrary, if you don't want to use Turo, you could just use private rentals and have a ton of partnerships that are set up. Now, third thing to go over, again, giving you guys some added value here when it comes to specifically what you'd want to do if you do get off of Turo and you want to build a private rental fleet, is a website. Now, I pulled up an example of a website for private rentals. This is specifically a company that's based out of Tampa. Again, I'm primarily on the platform, so I didn't build a website myself for this, but this would give you a good idea of what your website should look like. Okay, it shows the kind of cars there are. It shows the rates that are on there. It's basically what people want to see. When's the pickup, time, where's it located, what are the cars available. Another little thing, if you want to get into private rentals, this is kind of what you'd want the website to look like. Now, specifically, let's get into some of those further, more so for the private rental marketing strategies. One of them is going to be paid media. Now, for those that are unfamiliar with paid media, car rentals, when somebody's looking to rent a car, where do they go to rent a car? Typically, let's say that same example, somebody's visiting Pittsburgh. They go on to Google, they type in car rentals in Pittsburgh. First thing that comes up, Turo. They're going on to Turo, they're booking a call. But let's say you want to do private rentals, you pop up on there. Oh, private rentals Pittsburgh, local company. Boom, that's a way that you could get leads. Now, the actual skill of running paid media is a little bit of a different ball game. If you don't know that skill, you can learn it. I've spent a lot of time, effort, and money myself to learn that skill. I am at the point now where for any of my companies, I do pay for paid media, but as in pay for somebody to run it for me. But if it's definitely a valuable skill that you can learn, or you can find companies that specialize in advertising for car rental businesses. That would be another good idea. Second thing for marketing is to set up a referral program. Now, you can have a referral program, or specifically within Turo, you can have it where if somebody's a returning guest, we typically give them some kind of discount because they've already came to us before. I appreciate the repeat business. If they're specifically on the private side, you could set it up where, all returning people get a discount of 25 to 30%, something of that nature. Now, to get more so into these marketing strategies, content marketing, again, to kind of reiterate it, this is going to be, it's marketing that pertains to your car rental business. So it's showing people the experience, again, that they get through social media, things of that nature, which if you are doing Turo to start, it's a good thing because you're going to have a lot of content of people renting out the car, you cleaning the car, you getting the cars ready, going through the whole process to show your guests, hey, look, I'm serious about this business. Here's exactly what we're doing to give you the best experience possible. All right, now, customer service. There's a reason why overall we have a 4.8 star rating on Turo, and I'm going to dive into this a little bit more than I did on the first slide. Now, prompt responses, we went over that. The big thing that we know is to respond as quickly as possible. Again, it does make a difference in the algorithm. Remember when we were looking at the Explorer, see how it says here, typically responds within 1 minute? That does make a difference where it pushes you up in the algorithm. So make sure that you're responding relatively quickly. Now, the next thing is when it comes to clear communication. When I'm saying clear communication, an example would be that, let's say that you're out of town yourself and somebody wants to rent your vehicle. You have an automated system that we typically teach in our mentorship program exactly how to automate this from A to Z so you don't have to be there at all. But let's say that you have that system. Person sends you a message, hey, I want to pick up the car at this time. You have an automated message that goes out saying, hey, thank you so much for renting the car. Here's exactly what you need to do to get the keys to this car, to pick up this car, and then when you're finished, here's how you return the keys, here's how you drop off the vehicle, here's how you communicate with the staff at the location. When you have that clear communication, now all of that can be sent out in one message. So you don't have to spend the time when you're sitting on the beach hanging out with your friends or your family, you don't have to sit there and message back for 10 to 15 minutes explaining to people, okay, here's how you pick up the car, here's how you get the keys. Because think about it when you're texting somebody, and primarily through Turo, people do text more so than call. When you're texting it, they text you, oh, hey, where are the keys? Oh, the keys are over here. Where exactly are the keys? You said they were over here. I can't find them. Oh, you need to open up this box specifically and type in this code. Okay, that code didn't work. Is there a backup code? You see how this conversation can be time consuming. And it's one thing when you only have one vehicle. Maybe you do have the time to do that. But the way that I want to position you for success is when you have 5 to 10 cars, you do not want to be taking hours of your day specifically responding to things like that could be automated. Now, let's talk about personalized service next. When I say personalized service, to give you guys an example, it's kind of like back to this profile. When people leave reviews, we go and respond to every single review that somebody leaves, because that shows the renter or the guest, hey, we care that you left a review. It means something to us. So we go ahead and we spawn. Really, it's basically showing that we do care, and future guests see that, again, making the car more likely to be rented. Now this is a thing that I Didn't think I would have to say, but we've dealt with it a lot. So when it comes to handling issues professionally, and I'm going to give you a story of something that happened to me. There was one of the cars that we had that the car was rented out. We have it in our policy that there are no pets that are allowed. So person read the policy, they got the car gets back, there's pet hair all over the trunk, all over the back seat. I send a message to the guest, hey Jimmy, I saw that there's pet hair in the back. Could you tell me exactly what kind of dog or cat that you had so I know how to clean out the back of this car? Person's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry about that. I didn't even see in the policies that it was no pets. Yeah, it was this animal. Now, handling it this way gives us two benefits. Number one, if we put no pets in there, we could potentially get the cleaning fee from Turo because we could show that, hey, the guest said that they had an animal when they weren't supposed to have one. The second thing is that by dealing with this professionally, it makes it a much smoother conversation. Now, let me tell you what this would look like on the other end. I messaged Jimmy. Jimmy, what were you doing? Why? It says clearly in the policy that you're not allowed to have pets. Did you have a pet in this car? Well, now Jimmy's gonna get defensive. Well, no, I didn't have a pet in the car. I don't even know where that hair came from. Well, now if it takes you an extra hour to get all that pet hair out, you can't even show Turo and get extra money for it because that person said that they never had a pet in there. And yes, you can show proof of the pet hair, but it's gonna be a 50-50 of you getting the money. Where it's way easier for you to get a cleaning fee if you have actual proof to say, hey, this person told me that there was a pet in the car. It did take me extra time to clean it. That makes it where it's a little bit easier for you to get the funds that you deserve for this. All right, everybody, we are back with another lesson in the crash course for Car Rental Coach. So really in this lesson, what we're going to be talking about is managing your fleet. So specifically what I'm talking about here is, okay, what do the day-to-day operations look like? So when you wake up, you have a car rental business. All right, what am I doing on a consistent day-to-day basis? Another big thing we're gonna talk about is how to handle customer service issues when the issue can't directly be resolved with the guest and it has to get escalated up to Turo. Also gonna talk about maintenance because they are cars, they need maintenance all the time. So that is something that we'll be talking about. Okay, what kind of maintenance should you do? When should you be doing the maintenance? What needs to go into that to keep your cars on the road as much as possible? And the last thing that we'll go over is really strategies to build your Turo business and take it to the next level. Because really the big thing that this crash course is for is when you're just starting out, maybe a car or two, we have a mentorship program for people that are looking to scale up and really make this a $10,000 or a $20,000 a month income. If that is you, you might want to check into it, but we'll give you basically some tips and tricks for how you can look into that in general. But yeah, so let's get into it here. So first thing we're going to go into here is the day-to-day operations. Now, this is where you already have a vehicle, your car's on the platform, the car's actually getting rented out. First thing we're going to talk about is booking management. So specifically in Turo, there's a calendar that you'll be able to see, and it will show you how many days that your car is actually booked out in advance, which is pretty nice. So the big significance for this is, let's say that you wake up, you're looking on your phone, you're looking at this calendar, and you notice that your car's only booked for a total of, let's say it's the beginning of the month and your car's only booked for 7 days. Okay, now through looking at this, you see that it's 7 days and okay, I gotta make some adjustments here to get my car to be rented out more, whether that's pricing, whether that's pictures, whether that's your description. Something needs to be adjusted to get it where you have more days rented out in advance. Now, next thing we're going to talk about is vehicle preparation, specifically on the day-to-day operations. Now, really the big thing you'll have to deal with, now if you only have 1 or 2 cars, this will vary a little bit, but the thing about it is if you have a car, before every trip that the car goes, you have to take pictures of the vehicle to show, okay, here's what the car looked like beforehand. Typically, we recommend taking about 20 to 30 pictures per vehicle before every trip. Now, another question that we get from a lot of our students is, okay, what kind of pictures am I supposed to be taking? 20 to 30 pictures exactly of what? So we recommend you take pictures of the exterior. Now, we like to take zoomed out pictures of the exterior, and we'll even do a couple zoomed in pictures of the exterior just to show if there were any scuff marks before, or just really zoomed in on the car. When I say this, like maybe zoomed in on the front bumper to say like, okay, the front bumper's clean, back bumper's clean, to show that there were no marks or anything on the car. Or if there were marks, then we know that it wasn't something that guest did. Next thing is you want to make sure you're taking interior pictures as well. And I'm talking more so intricate interior pictures, like taking pictures of the seats, taking pictures of the steering wheel. If there's any leather in your car, taking pictures of that. Because as time goes on, there will be wear and tear on these things, specifically on the interior. But I've run into even an issue myself where I had to get it was my right passenger seat on an EcoSport that I had. We had to get the fabric on it replaced because somebody took a cigarette, and I don't know if they dropped it on the seat or if they pushed it into the seat. Point is that the car came back and it had a cigarette-sized burn hole that we had to get replaced. Now, the reason why we were able to get money for that from Turo to get it to be replaced is because our before pictures were very, very detailed. So we showed, hey, this is what the car looked like before. A little secret for you guys. Make sure that you take and upload those pictures within a 24-hour time frame of the trip going out. If you don't, Turo will not cover it. So if you upload the pictures 26 hours before the trip, they'll say like, oh, well, that wasn't in the adequate amount of time. Because basically what the reasoning is, and I only know this because I've dealt with it myself, if let's say that your car came back 2 days before your trip is, and you upload these pictures, let's say like in the in-between in the day time frame that's not within the 24 hours of the trip, then they might say, well, what if you took the car and maybe did some damage to it that you didn't mean to? Like, how do we know that was the renter? That's why they have the 24-hour policy, and it makes sense. Same thing when the car comes back. 25 to 30 pictures of the exterior and the interior. So then if there is an issue, when it's compared side by side, they'll be able to say, okay, here's what the car looked like before. It was pristine. Here's what it looked like after. The front bumper has a scratch on it. That documentation piece is crucial when it comes to actually getting money if there's some kind of issue. Next thing to go over here is customer communication. Huge part of the day-to-day business. Thing I want to touch on here for customer communication is in reference to the pickup and the drop-off. When people rent the cars, especially if you have an automated system, which we get more into for people that are in our mentorship program, but they will always ask you questions. Hey, where am I supposed to drop off the car? What color is the car? Where are the keys for the car? Oh, the front tire looks a little bit messed up. There will be day-to-day communication that you have with your guests. The more that you can automate this, the easier that it'll make your life. But keep in mind that you want to have quick responses to these so that you can get good reviews on your profile. And remember, as we spoke about in the last lesson, it'll show on your profile how quick that you respond to people on average. Now, the next thing I want to talk about here specifically is financial tracking. Now, for those of you that are new to business in general, you must know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, you don't know anything. Now, I attached basically a very basic financial projection sheet that I'll put in this video where you guys can find it. It's actually a resource that Turo has. It's one of their calculators. It takes a little bit of digging to find. Honestly, I didn't even find it online. It was one of the Turo reps that said like, oh, did you know that we have this? And they sent me a link to it. But it's very, very helpful when you're first starting out. Now, to give you an idea of specifically of what this one says, the example is if I had if I had a Mitsubishi Mirage, let's say the car was rented out for 95% of the time, daily rates $39 to be exact. We put it on the 85 protection plan, which means we get 85% of the revenue. Turo gets the other bit. Oh, wait, sorry about that. Then we have the average annual revenue, which would be $11,000. Now, what's important about this? I want you to ignore the down payment because that's not really something that we're looking at. What's important is what do the expenses look like. This is going to do it on a yearly basis. It'd be good for you to have your own Excel spreadsheet that breaks it down on a monthly basis. But this is going to show you, okay, so let's say your vehicle loan payment is a total of $3,958. Okay, so you know that off of the $11,681 that you brought in. Maintenance costs, $600. We like to set aside a set amount for maintenance, and then we dive into that pool when needed for the car. Parking costs. Again, another thing that I kind of threw in there just in case you don't have access to parking. That's another cost. Insurance cost. Another one that we want to add in there to give you an idea of what the insurance would be. And also cleaning. Now, when people say, how does cleaning get to be almost $500 if you're paying for a car wash or if you have cleaning supplies that you're constantly getting? Because, again, we recommend the vehicle should be cleaned before and after every trip. We recommend that it should be cleaned. Now, I'm not telling you to go do a full body detail, but I'm saying you should at the very least vacuum out the car, wipe it down with disinfectant, maybe put some Armor All on it, shine up the car, make sure that it looks good for every trip because you want to provide the best experience possible. So we go over after all those expenses, that car that brought in $11,000 in revenue, at the end of the day, it put in $4,962 into your pocket in the first year. Pretty good for one car if you can bring in an extra $5,000 a month in profit to you. This is the money that you're actually taking home. And again, you can play around with some of these expenses. Of course, your vehicle loan payment's going to vary. I did a very basic payment of what it would be. And all of these you can play around with a little bit. This is typically what I set aside personally for myself. That's just for me. But everybody's different in regards to what you think that you want it to be. All right, now let's talk about handling customer issues because this is a huge thing when it comes to the day-to-day. We mentioned it before. You always want to get back to people quickly. I want to get into the next topic here because we didn't get to talk about it as much, which is empathetic listening. Now, while the majority of people communicate via text, there will be those times when you're having a nice day, maybe you're at your job, maybe you're at home, you get a phone call. Pick up the phone, put it to your ear. Hey, Peter with Car Rental Coach. What's going on? Person calls you and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got your car. It was so dirty. And what kind of host are you? Like, you just sit around and you don't make your car clean for people? Now, there are two ways to respond to this. And I am telling you guys this because it's happened to me. Happened to a lot of people that I work with. First way to respond is you can be emotional. You can be like, what are you talking about? My car's always clean. Maybe you messed up the car, like my car's clean. I don't know what you're talking about. Then there's the second way, which is taking the empathetic listening approach, which for those of you that don't know, empathy is to essentially to feel the emotion with the other person. So you might not be going through it, but you understand their feelings. So to think about it from that approach, if you're thinking, wow, this person's saying the car was dirty, did I miss something in the car? Maybe I left a couple bottles in the back seat, or who knows, maybe there was some old trash left behind under the seat that I missed on. So the way I would respond to this would be like, oh wow, that's so sorry to hear that. I take the best care possible of my vehicles. What do you mean by the car was trashed? Well, the car was trashed because it just smelled like cigarettes. Okay, so it smelled like cigarettes. You know, I did bomb the vehicle. Again, I'm so sorry because nobody wants to be in a car where there's cigarettes. If I would discount the trip a little bit, do you think that would be fair? Okay, now the guest will respond, well, yeah, I think that would be fair. And it resolves your issue. Now to get into the next thing, that's having a solution-oriented approach. The opposite, which would be you would say, well, the car is clean. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you can't see. That car smells fine. I bombed it. When you give that approach, now the person's going to be like, this guy doesn't care about people. I'm giving him a 1-star review. In the moment, you might have felt better expressing yourself and, saying who cares what that person thinks. But in the long run, and I'm not saying to take it personally, I'm just telling you for your business, that 1-star review, people do look at that. Negative news travels quicker than good news. So keep it in mind. Now let's talk about if you have a customer issue that can't be resolved directly with the host, Or it can't be resolved directly with the guest. I misspoke. Wait, what kind of issue is this? What does that mean? So it means that if somebody rented out your car, and let's say a guy named Jimmy was renting out your car. You verified Jimmy's license. You met Jimmy. Okay, you know Jimmy was renting out the car. Car comes back at the end of the trip. A woman named Sally returned the car. And you're like, wait a minute, you're not Jimmy. I've never seen you before. You weren't the one driving this car. Oh, no. Jimmy he was busy today. He had to go to work, so I returned the car. Well, now you send a message to Jimmy and you're like, hey, Jimmy, did you add Sally onto the trip? Oh, no, I didn't. I didn't have time. All right, well, Jimmy, I just wanted to make sure because I only verified for you to be on the trip. And Jimmy's like, well, is it going to be a problem? I mean, when it gets into this tone of that nature, sometimes you want to bring Turo into the fray if it can't be resolved. So even in that story, if Jimmy's like, well, Sally wasn't driving the car, it was me that was driving the car. She didn't even return it. I returned it. And you'd be like, well, Jimmy, I met Sally. He's like, no, you didn't. It was me. Okay. So that's an issue where you'd want to let Turo know, hey, look, somebody else returned it. It wasn't him. Makes a big difference for you for insurance. Makes a big difference with your standing with Turo. When you bring them in, they will communicate with that guest to let them know that whatever it was is a problem. And also you can get an improper return fee from that. So it's a little nugget. And whenever, let's talk about another kind of issue. Let's say that a guest, they drive your car, they bring it back. There's a little, let's say the car got keyed. Right side passenger door gets keyed. You talk to the guests, they're like, well, that didn't happen during my trip. But you can clearly see in those before photos that you took that there was no key scratch on that right side passenger door. Guest says they didn't do it. It could have only been on their trip. Even if they didn't do it, happened under their watch. So now this is where you bring Turo in and you're like, hey, here are my before pictures. The guest is telling me they didn't do it, but it wasn't there before. Let Turo resolve the problem. It's not, of course you'd like to resolve it with the guest, but sometimes when the guests aren't as amenable, it's way easier to let Turo resolve that issue. And plus that's something where they'll cover to get your car fixed. All right, now let's talk about maintenance of vehicles. So this is a car rental business. The cars are going to need maintenance. You want to make sure that you're doing the regular inspections for your car. Now, on top of whatever state that you're in, it is different for everybody. Some states have it where there's a state inspection and there's a registration. Pennsylvania is one of those states, so we always have to make sure that our cars are up to code for the state inspection. Maybe in your state you don't have a state inspection. Even if you don't, I would still recommend that you have a routine, basically a routine for taking your car in for service. I'll get into that a little bit more here in a minute, but next thing I want to talk about is a cleaning routine. Now, you guys did hear about my routine. I clean the car after every single trip. I always want the car to be as pristine as possible. And I'll detail the car every once in a while, probably every other month. But the point of me bringing this up is that we keep our cars as clean as possible so nobody ever says that our cars were dirty. I'll give you another example for a cleaning routine. If somebody smokes in your car, you want to make sure that you can get the appropriate cleaning supplies to get that smoke out, which, again, we talk about more in our mentorship program. There's special tools and things that you can use to get the smoke smell out, and then also to show to Turo that somebody was smoking so you can get money for it. Now, next thing is when it comes to scheduling your servicing. When I'm talking about this, we're talking about the typical maintenance things. Tires, brakes, oil. You wanna make sure that you have a schedule in place for how often you're going to be getting those things. Whether if that's a time frame schedule, whether if it's a mileage schedule, it's up to you, but very, very important that you keep that in play. Now, the next step goes directly into the scheduling of the servicing, which is record keeping. Now, I've worked with a lot of people where they say like, I only have 2 cars, it won't be that hard. I'll just know when I pick the car up from service when it has to go in again. When you get upwards of 5 cars, it's very, very time consuming to remember, I took this car for that, especially when you're responding to guests every day and you're picking up the cars, you're dropping them off, you're cleaning them, you're doing 20 different things in a day. It's hard to remember when the cars came out, when they came back in, when's the last time they had oil, when's the last time they had tires, do they need brake pads, do they need rotors, do they need both? That stuff can become very tedious to keep track of, which is why it's nice if you have an Excel sheet or any kind of sheet where you can track like, okay, car A, got it new tires 6 months ago, it'll need new tires in 6 months to a year or when it hits a certain amount of mileage. So this goes basically hand in hand with the scheduling servicing, is that you want to have record of exactly what's going on with your vehicles, and a little tidbit here, put the cost in for all of the different expenses that are associated. So the tires, the brakes, add what it costs for you to do all those things, because then you can just move that into your financial spreadsheet. Makes life a little bit easier for you. Now, let's talk about strategies for scaling. And really, congratulations to everybody here, because you made it to the end of the crash course, which the big thing about this course is that we wanted it to equip you enough where you can go get a vehicle or two and start bringing in some revenue. And if you are serious, then we can always get on a call to talk more about the mentorship if you want to scale up. But this will give you the tools to be able to start the business and to make some money. So let's talk about when you want to get to the next level. So expanding your fleet, right? The big thing that I want to mention here is that you want to make sure that you get access to financing, whether if it's bank financing, different institutions. You want to make sure that you're setting up your Turo business as a business. George and I say it all the time. You don't want to operate this as a side hustle. You want to operate it as a business. So, and the reason behind it is that when you have adequate financials, you have systems in play. Now, when you go to get institutional money, they will see you as a serious business owner, where if you don't have your financials in play, you don't have any systems, they're going to be like, well, why would we give you our money if you're not serious about this? Nobody wants to give money to somebody that's not serious. So make sure your financials are in order. That'll help you expand. Next thing is when it comes in reference to hiring help. Everyone has a different philosophy on this. I would say once you get upwards of about 15 cars, that's when you'd want to start looking for somebody. Before that, I'd say once you get between 5 to 10 cars, this will take up a decent bit of your time, but that's when you want to start looking for people. Marketing investment it's a big way you can scale if you want to do private rentals. We talked about in the previous video, if you have a website, you get somebody to run paid Google ads for you, you could drive people to that website and get a lot of private rentals if you don't really like the idea of the car sharing platforms. Again, I am a big proponent of the platforms. And to give you a little bit of my reasoning, I've run many businesses in the past. When you're running your own business, you have to deal with a lot of things that Turo does for you, such as payment processing, such as guest communication, such as marketing. Hosting a platform itself can become very costly. Turo does all these things for me, which makes the business it makes it where there's less things for me to worry about. That's why I'm a big believer in the platforms. But if you want to go private rentals, because a lot of people do nowadays, we've done private rentals ourselves, that's something that you want to look into. And the last big thing for scaling is performance monitoring. Now, we talked about it earlier in the video. You should be, if you are serious, you should be looking at your calendar availability on a daily basis and your bank account on a daily basis and what your expenses are looking like at the very least on a monthly basis. You have to see what your performance is looking like so you know, okay, when should I scale? When should I dial back some things? You have to be looking at it on a consistent basis, because if you're not, that's when things slip through the cracks. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you're new to this business, you got a car and you watch this course, you put that car on the platform and boom, that car's renting. Life's great. It's booked out for 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. You're like, oh, this is great. And then you don't check your app for, say, a couple days, 3 to 4 days. Car's rented, so you're happy. But it didn't keep renting. And the reason why is because you weren't adjusting your pricing and making sure that everything was acceptable with your account so that it could go to the next level. Or you missed a bad review that came in when somebody returned a car. You got a 1-star review, and instead of responding to that, you missed it. So that's a big thing, is you want to make sure you're looking at that performance, because it'll help you take this business to the next level. And speaking of that, those of you that, if you are serious about taking this to the next level, go to carrentalcoach.com, fill out the survey, get on a call with us, and let's talk about the one-on-one. I'd only want to have that discussion after you're actually running the business and you have money coming in. But when you do, and you want to take it to the next level, that's the place to go, because that's where we could really help you. So again, yeah, thank you so much for being a part of this program, and hopefully I'll see you guys on a call soon.